I am going to talk about fig trees. Who has ever had anything to do with an actual real life fig tree?
No.
Really? How big was
Stop it. That's my
Henry,
tree.
sit up and be still. How big was it? Like super small?
Huge.
Huge.
In New Orleans, in Hannah's grandparents' yard, it was like 2 stories tall, big old bush.
Massive, like,
Massive fig
yeah.
tree.
And they're kind of squatty.
Yeah.
For huge trees, they're kind of squatty.
Yeah. It was
But-
brown,
Yeah.
more bushy than a tree.
And did you go in it?
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so fig trees, they're, I don't even know how to describe them because they're kind of in a class all themselves. Okay, they're a big bushy tree, and the leaves on them are huge. Okay, like huge leaves. All right, like the thing that when Adam and Eve first sinned, they went to the fig tree to make clothes because if you use big patches, there's less stitching. Okay, so that's the thing that they chose to cover their sin. Okay, now fig trees, also interesting fact about fig trees is they produce fruit before they produce leaves. So you have this mature fig tree, and before it has leaves come in the spring, it's got fruit that grow on it. So if a fig tree produces fruit before it produces leaves, if it has leaves, you can assume what?
It's already had fruit.
It's already had fruit. Okay, so at certain times of the year, you can assume that there is good fruit on it. Okay, you can eat figs really unripe too. They're not bad before they're ripe. Like if you've ever tried to eat any other unripe fruit, they're generally disgusting before they're ready. Like bananas. If a banana's not got brown spots on it, it's not ready. I don't care. I don't care what anybody ever says. Bananas need brown spots. Okay, so that's a little bit about figs. Also, figs are super delicious. If you've ever had a fig Newton, they're way better than fig Newtons. And I don't know, but I went to Aldi thinking I was going to get figs to bring y'all figs, but
Forgot.
I had misplaced the memory in my brain of getting figs at Aldi, and it was actually dates that I had purchased at Aldi, which are not the same as figs, and actually grow on more of a coconut tree, which, while they're still delicious, does not apply to this particular service. So I did not get the dates, although I probably should have, but the last time I got dates, they had spiders in them. Okay, so I've got some verses that I want to read to y'all. Okay, now in that day, this is Zechariah 3:10. Okay, so this is Old Testament stuff. Got to start with Old Testament stuff.
If you dare.
Okay,
Yeah.
in that day declared the Lord of hosts, every one of you will invite his neighbor to sit under his vine and under his fig tree. So here we are. God is telling these people, you're going to have a good time. You're going to go and you're going to invite your neighbors over, and y'all are going to go sit under the fig tree. Now you think about that, you go, why would you invite people over to sit under a fig tree? Well, a fig tree is a big bushy tree with lots of space on the inside. So if you wanted to go and relax, the fig tree would be a great place to do it. If you had just eaten lunch and you were tired and you wanted to go take a nap, underneath the fig tree would be a great place to do it because it's a nice, peaceful place where people aren't really going to see you either because fig trees are full and bushy. Okay? So God's saying you're going to come and invite your neighbors under your fig tree. Okay? And here's Jesus. This is later. John 1. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus the son of Joseph from Nazareth. Okay, so Philip, one of Jesus' disciples, goes up to this guy he knows, Nathan, and he's like, hey Nathan, we found the Messiah. Come meet him. We found the Christ. We found the one who's going to save us, who's going to bring us redemption. And he said, yeah, he's Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth. And Nathanael says to him, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Nazareth was such a bad place. When somebody was told the Christ is alive and came from Nazareth, he went, nah, no way. Not from Nazareth. Anywhere but Nazareth. Okay? And so Philip said to him, well, just come on, just come and look. And when Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him, mind you, this is somebody he's never met before. This is a complete stranger. Okay? And Jesus came up to him, saw Nathanael, and said, here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. You are an honest man. You, among the nation of Israel, are an honest man. And Nathanael asked him, where did you get to know me? Who are you to say I'm an honest man? You don't know me from anybody. And Jesus answered, I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you. So before Philip met Nathanael, Nathanael was praying underneath the fig tree. And he was seeking the peace of the Lord under the fig tree. And Jesus was there with him. Even though Jesus was there physically, wherever he was, having breakfast or whatever, he was with Nathanael because he is God. Okay? And so he said that because that's what Nathanael needed to hear. I know you. I know you when you were praying in your closet this morning because I'm God, is essentially what Jesus said to him. And Nathanael replied, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. People have a tendency to do that.
Dad, I need to think.
Go talk to Mama. People have a tendency to react that way. Yeah. To Jesus. That when Jesus said something, Jesus revealed things to people that they did not feel like could be revealed. Okay? Jesus met one woman and she said, I have no husband. And he said, that's right, you've had 5. And she was like, whoa, blew my mind. Because she didn't know him. Do you need to go? Yeah.
What happened?
I think she needs to go to the bathroom.
Okay, come on, Charlie.
So she was like, whoa, you just blew my mind. And she goes off and tells everybody, this man knew everything about me. Because of the words that Jesus spoke. Because Jesus knew things about you that other people didn't know. Okay? And that's the case here with Nathanael. Now, so here, again, we're talking about fig trees. All right? Now, here's a parable of fig trees. There are parables of fig trees. It's a story that Jesus told about fig trees. And it starts out, a man had a fig tree which had been planted in his vineyard and had come looking for fruit on it and did not find any. So he's got this fig tree, and he's a fig tree guy. He's got a fig tree, so he knows how fig trees work. And he goes up to the fig tree to get his fruit, and it's not there. So, and he said to the vine keeper, the guy who works his garden, behold, for 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree without finding any. Cut it down. Why does it even use up the ground? Okay? Like, I'm tired of this tree. I'm tired of this tree. It's taking up my space. I need a tree that's going to produce fruit on it. And if it's not going to produce fruit, cut it down. Right? Does that make sense? You know, you've got you have a shop and you have one worker who never does anything. What do? You fire him. You get rid of him and you bring in a new worker who will hopefully work. Cut down a fig tree because it's not producing figs. You plant a new fig tree and hopefully you'll get figs. And he answered and said to him, so the vine keeper, the gardener, answers back, leave it alone, sir, for this year too, until I dig around it and put in fertilizer. Now, what kind of fertilizer did you think they used in the year 0? What kind of fertilizer do you think they used in the year 0? Cow dung? Is that what you said? Because that would have been a good answer.
I said I
Yeah. They would have used animal feces.
don't know.
Cow poop, that's right. That's the kind of fertilizer they would use. And that's what they would use to make their plants grow extra tall.
Henry's spilling on his pants.
Okay. Well, use your pants to wipe it up, Henry, since you're already wet. So, let me dig a trench around it, and I'll put in some dung, and if it bears fruit next year, great, but if not, then we cut it down. Let's give it another shot, sir. It's one more year. Let's see, because then we'll have a 4-year-old fig tree instead of a brand new fig tree. So it'll be more, and it'll produce more. It's worth the gamble, okay? So, later on in Luke, he says, "For there is no good tree which produces bad fruit, nor on the other hand a bad tree which produces good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they pick grapes from a briar bush." Anybody here picked grapes? We don't have a lot of fig harvesters here. You ever picked any fruit off of a tree? Any kind of fruit, any kind of tree? You ever gone out to a garden and picked a tomato? A peach? Okay. You pick peaches off peach trees, right? Do you pick peaches off oak trees? No. Do you get asparagus off of yard grass? No.
I
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah. Yeah. You get what you plant, right? So if you pick a tomato off of a plant, what kind of plant would you say that is? A tomato plant, right. So we can judge a plant by what fruit it puts off.
Amen.
Okay? So,
Now, question about that, sorry.
no.
How long does it take for an apple tree to produce fruit?
It's a long time, isn't it? Like 15 years? 10, 15 years? Henry, stop.
So some things take a long
Some things take a long time. I've also got stories about apple trees, if we want. Apple trees are a gamble. If you take apple seeds out of an apple and plant them, you will not grow the same kind of apples that you planted. You will grow, yeah.
Wow.
If you take the seeds out of a Macintosh apple and plant them, you will not grow Macintosh apple trees because they're called extremely heterozygous. So they're just nothing like their parents. That's why if you do plant and they come up and they're good apples, a good apple tree's worth $1 million because you can't just replant them. You have to take cuttings and graft them and grow them that way.
I know they're very hard to grow in this part of Texas.
Yes.
Yeah, we tried.
I've planted many.
Yeah.
And they-
So, but yeah, some things take a long time to bear fruit, and some things bear fruit right away. You plant a radish seed, you have a radish in 30 days.
Let us get down.
Go.
The bath.
Take it to mama. Okay, so now this is Jesus coming into Jerusalem. Okay, and he's in the middle of his ministry. Henry, stop. He's in the middle of his ministry. And he has followers, and he is known. And he comes in, and it was morning, and when he was returning to the city, he became hungry. Seeing a lone fig tree by the road, he came to it and found nothing on it except leaves only. And he said to it, "No longer shall there be any fruit from you." And at once the fig tree withered. Now this account is different than in Mark and Luke, and in I can't remember which one. I think it's Mark. He curses the fig tree, and then they go into the city and they come back, and one of the disciples goes, "Rabbi, look at the tree you cursed. It's dead. It's withered from the roots." Okay, and in this account it says it happened immediately. And seeing this, the disciples were amazed and asked, "How did the fig tree wither all at once?" And Jesus answered them and said, "Truly I say to you, if you have faith and do not doubt, and will only do what is, and you will not only do what was done to the fig tree, but even if you say to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, it will happen. And all things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive." Now this is a powerful verse. This is one of the few instances where Jesus does something that one might consider destructive. Jesus didn't have a lot of destruction in his ministry. He was more of the turn the other cheek kind of a guy. But in in the other account, when he goes into the city, that's when he goes into the temple and finds the money changers and flips over tables. Okay. And Jesus is seeing something here in the fig tree that's happening not only here with the fig tree, but also with the temple. Okay, and as I've said 100 times, and we'll say 1,000 more, it's not just something physical here. Jesus didn't just curse a fig tree. Jesus didn't just kill a tree. Okay, he did something in the physical that says something in the spiritual. Okay, and he came up to this fig tree seeing leaves on it, and he came up to it because it had leaves on it, and it had no fruit. Now, spiritually, what is he saying? He sees something flourishing, and he runs to it, and it's hollow. It might as well be a hollow banana peel, and you peel it open, and there's no banana inside. I mean, it's the same thing. It gives the appearance. It gives the appearance of being holy, but it's not. And Jesus goes into the temple, and he finds people slaughtering injured and sick lambs, and he finds people selling doves and turning God's holy place, the place on earth. We don't have anything like the Temple of Jerusalem. We just don't. There is no. Recently there was a disaster at the National Cathedral, or there was renovations needed on the National Cathedral, and it was like $25 million worth of restoration. And it's the National Cathedral. It's going to happen. But has anybody been there? Anybody got any ties to it? Got any cares about it? No. But the Temple of Jerusalem, every Jew had a place in their heart for the Temple of Jerusalem. Okay? This is the place where God resides. This is where the Holy of Holies is. This is where you go to pray. This is where you go to do your sacrifices. This is it. This is an important place. All right? And Jesus walks in, and they've turned it into a market, and they're doing all these things, and it's the same thing as just happened with the fig tree. The same exact thing. He walks up, and to walk up to the I mean, it would be amazing to walk up to the Temple of Jerusalem in its heyday, when it was, I mean, it would just be beautiful. Okay? And I can't even picture it because I don't know. Okay? But you see it, and you immediately feel, this is where the presence is. This is where I need to go. This is, the Holy of Holies is here. You know, and you walk in, and you see it's not a house of prayer like Isaiah said it would be. When God spoke through Isaiah, he said, "You will call my house a house of prayer." And instead they made it a den of vipers, I believe was.
Yeah.
Thieves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And different gospels, different things. Basically, it's swap meet.
Yeah. They basically turned it into a swap meet. And so you have this beautiful, immaculate, amazing place that should house the love of God, and it's corrupt on the inside. And it's the exact same thing with this beautiful fig tree standing out all by itself, because it says he saw a lone fig tree by the road. Henry. He saw a lone fig tree by the road. So if you see a flower standing out by itself, it draws your attention, doesn't it? If it's a whole field of flowers, one little flower is not going to make that much difference. But when you have one big flower right in the middle, I mean, it attracts you. And so Jesus came up to this thing that was supposed to provide nourishment for him, and it didn't. And then he goes to the house of his father, and it's supposed to provide spiritual nourishment for him, and it didn't. And he cursed the temple just as he cursed the fig tree. He said, "This temple will be torn down stone from stone. No stone will be left standing upon itself, and I will rise it back up in 3 days." That whole thing, yeah. When he was talking not about the actual brick building itself, but about himself dying and being resurrected 3 days later. And that temple was destroyed stone for stone, just like Jesus said it would. It took 70 years to get there, but they did it. But he spoke that curse on that mountain just like he spoke it against the fig tree. And Jesus said, anybody ever heard with the faith of a mustard seed you can move mountains? I mean, that's very common paraphrasing of this verse right here, is with the faith of mustard seed you can move mountains. Say to this mountain, be cast into the sea, and it will be. If you have the faith and you believe that it's already done and that it's the will, if it's the will of God, it will be done. Okay? And if you're in touch with God in the way that you should be in touch with God, God will tell you when a mountain needs to be moved, and you will tell it to move because he has given you authority through his Son. Just like you can walk up to a fig tree and say, you're useless. You're a fake. You don't deserve to be here. So, yeah. This, Jesus can see you for who you really are. And Jesus said that many will come to me and say, Lord, Lord. And there will be those who did things for God and made it look like they were his people. And they cast out demons and healed the sick, and they weren't. And they're just putting on a show, and they don't really have the love of God in them. But they don't have any fruit. You have to bear fruit to be. What good is a tree if it doesn't bear fruit? And some trees, their fruit's going to be, the wood of the tree. You grow pine trees for wood, that's their fruit. But, a fig tree, you grow it for figs. If it doesn't produce figs, it's not useful, and it's not what God intended it to be. So, examine your own life and see where you're bearing fruit.
Can you give us some examples of what fruits we should be exhibiting as people?
Oh, that would have been a good thing to prepare for earlier.
Like the fruits of the Spirit, maybe?
I know, yes.
Or can we name them?
Can we communally name them?
Love, joy,
Peace, patience, kindness.
goodness, perseverance,
Long-suffering.
long-suffering.
Yeah.
Goodness, self-control.
Self-control.
Self-control is the very last one.
Yeah. Sometimes it needs to be the very first one.
And
Yeah.
that the fruits of the Spirit are actually more important than the gifts of the Spirit.
Yes.
You can have the gifts of the Spirit, but if you don't operate with the fruits of the Spirit, then it's nothing. Right?
Yeah.
People should look at you and look at the way that you interact in love and joy and peace and kindness, and then they see God.
If I prophesy.
Evidence for God.
Yeah. If I prophesy and have not love, I am but a clanging cymbal.
Amen.
Yeah. So, love, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, long suffering, faithfulness. Yeah. I really need to memorize them in order because that's the only way I'll ever be able to spit them all out.
The best way to remember them, and we went over this last week too when we were talking about the gifts, we were talking about the fruits. The best way to remember them is they're attributes of God.
Mm-hmm.
So think, what is God? God's love, He's peace, He's joy, He is kindness, He's long-suffering, He suffers with us and for us. So that's the way that I remember that.
And that's the thing about fruit is you are what you look like. So if we're producing fruits of wrath or anger, if we're producing fruits of jealousy, or if we're gossiping about people, or if we're just saying mean stuff, that's not good fruit. That's bad fruit.
If you're throwing an Xbox remote at your sibling, what fruit are you producing right there?
I've got a Xbox.
That's right, Henry. A bad fruit.
It doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would.
So, constantly evaluate yourself and how you're responding to a situation. And say, am I handling this in the way that Jesus would handle this?
Especially with your words.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
Amen.
So that's all I got. I think we're early.
Yeah, I think it was really cool how you were talking about the temple and speaking of fruits and bearing fruit, and that you gave such a vivid description of what it was. It was a place that all the Jews knew. It was a place dear to their heart, and it was a place that they held in high regard and reverence because it had the Holy of Holies, because it had the presence of God. And I thought it was also cool that you mentioned where Jesus said, listen, I'll tear this down in 3 days, rebuild it. And where he's going with that is, you don't need that place anymore because now you have access to him, access to the Holy Spirit, access directly to the Father because of the cross. In such, you can carry these fruits of the Spirit with you. This love, this peace, this joy. It's something that is inherent to you now if you are a follower of Christ, if you profess him as Lord and Savior, if you believe, if you have a relationship. And what that word inherent means is that it is actually a part of you. It is not something that can be separated from you. It's inherent on you. It is who you are. And those fruits of the Spirit. And the fig tree was awesome. How you drew that all together. That was a really awesome lesson. I hope y'all took out of it what I did. Thought it was cool.
I was gonna say that the temple of Jerusalem, the men's feet, was like having a bowl of food and a bunch of maggots buried in fruit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now we are the temple.
Amen. That's
Yeah.
right.
We are the temple because the Holy Spirit lives in us.
Yeah. He doesn't live behind a veil.
Exactly. He doesn't live in a building or in one place. He's in each of us.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I have cried on a number of occasions sitting in this position in children's church, where I will be giving a message and I'll just get like overwhelmed. And one of the places where that happens is during Jesus' death, when the veil is torn. Like that right there. That's the all that other stuff. It doesn't hit me the same way as when God literally opens the door
Amen.
with the death of his son, so that by him I can walk into actual holiness. Like,
A couple of times he got so deep into it, he cried.
I know. That's because that's how important this is to me. This is important enough to me that I even just thinking about, like, I don't consider this a book of stories. When I think about all the firstborn of Israel dying, millions of children, or hundreds of thousands of children just died one night, and there's mothers just screaming out all night. Hundreds of thousands of mothers just screaming out in pain from the death of their children, and that's emotional. That's what it was worth.
I thought it was
That's what it was worth for God to free the Jews. It was worth killing those hundreds of thousands of babies, so that his son could come in the way that he prescribed it.
Yes, it was Egyptian babies.
You know, I mean,
Is that not what he said?
he said Israel.
Oh, he misspoke.
oh, sorry. But yeah,
It was the Egyptian babies.
yeah, it was
Firstborn
Egyptian
of all
babies.
Egyptians. Anyone
Yeah.
who didn't have the blood of the lamb over their doors.
Right. So,
And it wasn't just babies, it was livestock too.
well, the livestock, he killed all of the firstborn of their livestock
Yeah.
in the previous thing, in the previous plagues.
He dealt a lot
He-
of damage.
Well, they kept saying no. Not to turn this into a plagues seminar, but like one of my favorite things about the plagues is how the first 5 times Pharaoh hardened his own heart, and the last 5 times God hardened the Pharaoh's heart. So you have opportunity to do the right thing, but at a certain point you get turned over to your own
Amen.
sin.
And the Holy Spirit reiterates that in Romans 1. At a certain point, God let the Romans over to their own lust and
Gave them over to their debauchery.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, Maddie. Can you stop, please? I know, and I told you to stop.
I was gonna make Henry clean it up.
Yeah, I was gonna make him clean it up too, but Emily's cool like that.
Still in the bathroom? Is she coming?
So,
That was deep.
yes, it is deep. It's a very deep book. It's so layered. It's entangled in its woven fabric of truth, and it all ties together. And that's just a few references to fig trees. Fig trees are referenced in the Bible so many times. Figs and fig trees, and there's references to having two bowls of figs, and one is perfectly ripe and the other's gone bad, and he's like, which bowl are you? You know, which bowl would you belong in? Yeah, I actually just opened up my Bible, and it's not on the same page now. But I opened it up, and I was just reading before we started, and there was a reference to fig trees right there on the random page in Jeremiah. Yeah. What? So, yeah, if you pick something out,
I woke up with a random bruise on my leg.
yeah.
He just said it was cool that his nose was dripping.
Henry, that's not your drink, buddy. Don't drink it. If you just pick something out of here and search for it on YouTube, like the parable of the fig tree, Henry, you'll find 20 different sermons by 20 different pastors, and they all have a different take on it. And if there's anything in here, like, that's how I would recommend looking. If you don't have a concordance, if you do have a concordance, that's a great way to do it.
Henry, sit
Uh,
in your seat.
But yeah,
Thank you.